We're so centered on protein, we're displacing other nutritionally important foods with our protein foods.
Let's double click on protein because there's a pretty interesting case that's kind of come into vogue of late that if we optimize protein, that can help with muscle wasting. And this is a hallmark of aging, reduced muscle mass, reduced grip strength. Maybe we could even include VO2 max as like a loose proxy to muscle mass. So I see that case. I also see the case that making sure we get an adequate protein is really important. There's a gentleman, I'm going to totally blank on his name, but he was interviewed on the Peter Attia podcast. He kind of made the rounds, a well-known protein researcher who had a perspective of, yeah, I mean, there's a case here, but it may not mean that everyone needs to be getting in 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That might be a little bit extreme. Maybe for someone like me who trains really hard, and I just tend to gravitate toward higher protein intake intuitively. So, okay, maybe you could make that case, but to say everyone, everywhere, all the time needs to have 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, that seems to not be a totally justifiable case. How do you feel about, and it's probably a lot of complicated analysis for a simpler answer of get in a decent amount of quality protein in a day from a variety of sources. And that was essentially what his comment was, which was, you don't need a super high intake. The quality does matter. So vegetarian sources will need to be more diligent about intake because they're less bioavailable. But otherwise, it didn't seem like it was too complicated of an issue. But what are your thoughts on protein?
Yeah, so I agree that the recommended dietary allowance for protein is probably too low. It is not sufficient to support maintaining lean mass through perimenopause, and females lose an average of 10% of their muscle just in the perimenopausal period, and it's not sufficient to prevent sarcopenia in aging, so the loss of muscle mass as we age that increases risk of frailty and loss of function as we age, a big challenge. But 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight for most people is probably too much. Where I think it is appropriate is in people with higher energy demands. But often that 1 gram of protein per pound body weight is kind of like trending on social media right now, is also framed within the context of caloric restriction, because it's very much about maintaining muscle mass through weight loss. And that starts to exceed the accepted macronutrient distribution range of protein, which is 10 to 35% of our calories from protein. So if you're doing 1 gram of protein per pound body weight, even if you're 150 pounds, if you're also eating 1,700 calories a day, now you're above 35% calories from protein. And the challenge with that, there's a couple of challenges with that. So when you start to get into that higher protein intake, depending on the protein sources, it does seem to increase risk of cardiovascular disease, more so when that excess protein is coming from animal foods, less so when that excess protein is coming from plant foods. And whether that's directly related to the protein or the other nutrients that are coming in those foods, right? Is that because high animal protein also means high saturated fat? Like that question really hasn't been answered yet. But I think the bigger challenge is when we're so centered on protein, we're displacing other nutritionally important foods with our protein foods. And especially when we start using protein bars, protein powders, right? These more refined protein sources, now we're not even getting the nutrients that are packaged up in protein foods.
Key point. I think that's a really key point. And I fell into that for a little while where it was just so easy to make a shake. I was hitting my protein goals, but you're right. I don't know this for a fact because I didn't do the math, but I'm assuming I was probably under nutrient, intakes in some key nutrients.
Well, and typically what happens, unless someone's very following a plant-based diet and really focusing on the protein and not relying on protein powders very much, for most people, it's the fiber-containing foods that are traded. And I think part of that is protein foods are filling and fibery foods are filling. And it's really hard to have enough appetite for both when you have high protein goals. And so I have seen a whole lot of comments on social media. That's not a scientific study. This is just a vibe. So we can't call this a scientific quote, but a whole lot of comments of, yeah, I was trying to do that much protein and it wrecked my gut, right? I was trying to do that much protein and I had all of these symptoms. I was so constipated, or, like I had the worst bloating ever when I ate that much protein. And I don't think it's the protein that's the problem. I think it's the protein displacing other, especially whole food sources of fiber.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, you can make that argument for when people go too high fiber, they can have the same sort of problem. So, maybe this is just coming back
to the fiber candy, the fiber wraps, the fiber, right? Like,
for sure.
There's so many fiber enriched.
Yeah. So maybe again, it's just like the truth is somewhere in the middle where it's not too much protein, not too much fiber, but shocker, like a reasonably balanced diet, which
it's back in
defense of our audience, that's been, I think, a more challenging thing to find data on, to your earlier point.
Yes, no, for sure. And I think, I think the better protein goal for most people is between 1/2 and 3/4 of a gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's where most of the science is. So most studies are 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram body weight. So just it's still about double the recommended dietary allowance. But it's just reining it in a little bit. If we can rein that in a little bit, again, if you're a very, very active person with a much higher energy requirement, you can have that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight and still be at 20% of your calories from protein, right? Like that is your exception. But for most everyone, reining in that protein a little bit, we already, 95% of people fall short of the 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calorie recommended dietary allowance for fiber. I think that's a great start. But to your point, I think that the challenge with fiber is people go from 0 to 100 in 0.6 seconds.
Yeah.
And that doesn't go well.
For sure.
So we get very, very excited about fiber and we tend to overdo it. And that can cause a variety of unpleasant symptoms. Our gut bacteria need time to adjust to increases in food, right? If you overfeed a dog, they get sick. It's kind of the same thing, right? With their gut bacteria. If you dramatically increase your fiber intake, you're feeding them way too much food. They're producing way too much metabolic output, and that creates a nasty bunch of shifts in that system. So, a 5 gram increase once per week, right? Like go up or every few days, right? Week. Wait a few days, go up 5 grams, even if you're way below, right? So if you're way below the recommended dietary allowance for fiber, to get up to that 28 grams, say for women, 35 grams for men, as a general starting place, even getting up to that, you kind of want to ease into it. You don't really need to do that for other nutrients, but for fiber, for sure. And I think that gives people, when they get that predictable GI effects from going up too aggressively in fiber intake, it makes people feel like, oh, well, I can't eat that food, right? Beans and I don't get along.
Absolutely.
But maybe start with a little bit and increase gradually over time, and maybe you do get along with beans, you just don't get along with all of the beans all of a sudden.
Sure. No, and that's been well documented with clinical trials giving either fiber supplements or prebiotic supplements, that there's that adjustment period of maybe a week, maybe 2, and that can be mitigated if it's a slow titration upward of the dose. So one of the things that is very nutrient dense per your Nutrivore score is liver. And this makes me think about a practice I feel to be very practical, very easy to do, which is not just eating flesh proteins, but now I'm a big fan of the ancestral blend. I forget the name of the company. Oh, and by the way, that protein researcher, his name is Don Layman or Lyman. So I'm not sure so just for our audience, if you want to look up his work, I think because there's a few big names who are really pushing hard for very high protein intake. Don, I think, is kind of like the OG protein researcher, and he has a very nuanced and reasonable perspective that's in the middle, between the 1 gram per pound body weight and maybe like you don't need protein at all. Protein will kill you. Animals are bad. But so these liver blends where it'll be a combination of beef plus beef liver plus beef heart, kidney, and spleen maybe. Now, for some, that may sound like ugh, but it's actually not too bad. If you saute it on the stovetop at a medium-high heat, you got a little bit of caramelization, you use some salt, pepper, it can actually be delicious, and you can't even really taste the organ meats in there. So I'm assuming you're a fan of that sort of approach.
Yeah, I love that approach. I think so I'm a big fan of sneaking nutrition in, right? And I think when we use those organ meat, like ground meat blends, we're treating ourselves the same way we would our kids when we, sneak a bunch of vegetables into a smoothie or, into brownies, right?
Right.
We're kind of just treating ourselves the same way by sneaking in a bunch of extra nutrition that way.